Today I'm going to be answering one of your art questions about having your artwork stolen from the internet. Hi, I'm Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. John writes, I have a question about art. I am an artist as well, and I see you post stuff all the time, which I understand is about how to keep a fan base growing, like you said on your video on how to get more followers. My question is, for me, I would love to post my artwork online, YouTube and whatnot, but I'm also aware of other people copying my art and taking credit for it. I do have one picture copywritten, and I have posted that one, and it's on my business cards. But what advice do you have regarding this? This is one of those things that I think people really blow out of proportion. Your work is going to get stolen. If you're any good, it will get stolen. It's an inconvenience. It is not the end of the world. That's a part of the process. You just have to accept it is going to happen and know what to do about it when it does. I remember in an art group I was a part of, they wanted to post some of the photos of people's stuff over on Facebook, and one of the people I remember freaking out because that's how you get your artwork stolen. Your artwork is already posted in an online forum. If it's gonna get stolen, it could get stolen. But that freaking out and panicking about it getting stolen, I mean, it's kind of like living in a house and never purchasing a TV or a computer because you're afraid someone's going to break in and steal it. You're missing out on a lot if you're living by that fear. I think there are 3 common reasons or ways that artwork gets stolen, and you just need to know how to handle it when it does happen. First, and I think this is the worst, is where someone is copying it, just downloading a photo of your artwork and then making prints and selling those prints of your original artwork. Generally, when this happens, you can send a cease and desist letter to the person, just email it to them if you want, and that will normally freak them out enough that they stop making copies of your print or stop selling them. I even had this happen to me a few years ago. As many of you know, I used to show studio assistants number 1 and 2, and because of that, I know a lot of people in the dog show world around the country. So when this one woman who was heavily involved with Papillons, she had a booth, a vendor booth at some of these dog shows up in the Oregon, Washington area. She was selling copies of my artwork. She did not have permission. I have never given anyone permission to make prints of my artwork. What she did not realize is that chances were it was going to get back to me. She didn't realize I was also involved in the dog show world. So when my friends who knew that was my work contacted me and I contacted the woman, she was just so freaked out. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. She claimed that her adult son purchased for Mother's Day a disc of royalty-free photos of dog artwork by other artists for $500. She even knew how much it cost, which you're like, that's kind of shady. Why would someone tell you how much they paid for that? But okay. Red flag number 1 about the fact that this woman was lying, or the son lied to her. But she claimed that she bought this, and I contacted other artists who she was selling artwork by, and they said the same thing. None of us gave her permission to use this work. So I told her I wanted the information of where the CD came from. I need to put a stop to this, because she was acting like she was so upset that this had ever happened. She can't believe it. But she can provide me with that information. She said she tried to contact her son, but he wasn't calling her back. You know how kids are. Really. One of 2 things happened here. Either he was just a thief and went around the internet and stole photos from people's websites. You could see where he really, really badly edited out my watermark. It was so badly done. And he then downloaded these onto a blank CD and just handed that disc to his mom. Because if it was something that he had actually purchased from somebody, it would have the information, you know, their website or where you could get more from them, something like that. Or even, here are royalty-free photos. There would be something on that disc. So I suspect that the son was just shady and made it for his mom and handed it to her and then lied and said, hey, I paid $500 for this. Happy Mother's Day. The other option is that she was doing it herself and also lied. Those are pretty much the only 2 ways that this has happened. I've done the Google image search. No one was selling actual discs with this on there, so it came from this family. One of the 2 people was an actual thief. Now, she stopped selling my work. I've had people keep an eye on her. She's no longer doing this, but she could have been sued for that. That was a pretty big violation of my copyright, and she knew it, which makes me think that because it would have gotten her into so much trouble with the dog show clubs, that she probably did get the disc from her son. He was the thief, but I don't know. And while I could have sued her, that was gonna be more trouble than it was honestly worth if she hadn't made any sales. So I probably wouldn't have gotten much from her had I sued her. It wasn't worth the trouble. I just needed her to stop doing that. And in most cases, if you contact the person who has stolen your work, they kind of panic and they stop doing it. It's just a really, really easy thing to put a stop to. And if it's not, contact a lawyer. Copyright lawyers love this sort of thing because it's a very clear cut, the artist wins. That's a case they know they're going to win. My big tip on this to avoid this happening too seriously is do not upload very high resolution photos of your artwork. Upload something smaller. Use a lower DPI. Use lower pixels. Don't upload these huge files of your artwork that are going to print very well. I upload much smaller versions that if somebody is going to buy a print off that low quality, they probably weren't going to pay more to get the quality version from me anyway. So I figure it's not that big of a deal that I'm going to freak out. I mean, I'm going to contact the person and tell them to stop making prints, but I'm also not going to have a heart attack about it because I don't feel like I really lost any sales because of that. Because again, somebody who's willing to pay, let's say $10 for a low resolution, bad quality of one of my prints is not the same person who's going to be spending $70 on a high quality version of one of my prints. So I'm not that concerned. I'm not going to have a heart attack basically when it happens, and it will happen. Now, if the person refused or kept selling it, then yes, I would then sue them. But usually if you just contact them in the first place, they stop and you're okay. The next thing that can happen is that another artist just repaints your painting or copies this. I think this happens a lot more often than the first scenario. And here it's usually just artists who are learning to paint. They saw something pretty, they wanted to try painting it themselves. In most cases, they're not selling prints, they're not trying to sell the original, they're just learning. And again, I don't worry that much about that. A new artist copying one of my paintings, it's not going to look that much like mine. I mean, yes, enough so that if I wanted to sue them, I could, but realistically, it's not really competition for me. They're learning. They're still in the beginning stages, and if that can help them to learn, I figure go for it. Once an artist becomes a professional, they're selling their work, they've probably painted several things, and they start to paint their own versions of things. Now, there are always going to be exceptions. There will be people who copy your work and try to sell them, and it's the same thing. Send a cease and desist letter. They can get in a lot of trouble for that, so it's not the end of the world if it happens. And for me, because I do tutorials, I expect people to copy what I'm doing for their own use, not for selling prints and that sort of thing, unless I specifically say so in that video that I'm giving permission for that. But it happens. People will copy things. I mean, somebody emailed me recently about an artist in South Texas who was selling a copy or something he had painted of one of mine. The thing was, he was such a beginner that, again, we're not talking about real competition. Somebody who is willing to spend $2,000 for my original painting are not the same people who would go ahead and buy his for $25 or whatever he was selling it for. We're not really competing with each other. He is a beginner, so his is not the same quality that mine is. And while yes, that is a violation of copyright, he's not supposed to do that, I'm also not gonna have a heart attack because I know it's not actually affecting my sales. Being that it was a one-time thing, I won't worry about it, but if it keeps popping up and we keep seeing him try to sell copies of my work, then yes, I will contact him, send the cease and desist letter and all of that. But probably by the time he gets to where he's very skilled in his work, he's gonna be painting his own things then anyway. Right now, he's still very much in the learning phase. Now, if you're worried about the legal side of proving you made yours first, YouTube makes that, I think, pretty easy. There's a date when that video was uploaded. I have copies of all of this on social media. Mine was posted first. There's no way to argue that. Even if I haven't gone through the trouble of copywriting my work, but I've got the videos with the dates on them. Well, yes, it would make the lawsuit a little bit more of a pain for me. Not that much. It's pretty easy for me to prove I made mine first. Here's the date, here's when it was uploaded. All of this can be used in court. He then would have to prove that he created his before mine, which wouldn't be possible for him to prove. Now, to be clear, I am not giving you legal advice on copyright. The safest, easiest thing is to copyright all of your work. But even if you haven't gone through the trouble of having your work copyrighted, it's still yours. It is still copyrighted to you, even if you don't have the documentation for that. It just runs into an issue of where if you do have to get into court, you have to prove that yours was created first and all of that fun stuff, which again, because of the dates on the video and the social media and when all of this went live, it would be fairly easy to prove. But I do recommend, if this is a real concern for you, contact a copyright lawyer and go ahead and let them get you set up on copywriting all of your stuff. The third thing that happens, which is also very common, is that you feel that someone stole your concept. Let's be realistic though. No matter what you're doing, no matter what it is, somebody else has already been doing it. Your ideas are probably not quite as original as you think they are. Somebody has done some variation of whatever it is that your idea is. This is not something to freak out about. This is the reality of art. Somebody else did it too. Let's say you like to paint goldfish in dryers and somebody else painted a goldfish in a washing machine. Oh my God, they copied me. They took my idea. Probably not. They might have been inspired by it, but it's not the same. It's their vision of that. It's not a copyright violation. This is not something to have a panic attack over. They might have been inspired by you. They may not have ever seen your work. It's not unreasonable that somebody else would have an idea similar to yours. And this is another one. I have it happen all the time because people will base paintings off of stuff they've seen me do. That to me is flattering. Wow, I inspired you to paint something that's kind of similar but not the same, your own concept. You know, I inspired that idea. That's great. This is not something to worry about. This is not something to freak out about. This is not losing you sales. We are not quite as unique in our artwork as we like to think we are. We just aren't. What's gonna separate you and your dryer goldfish from the washing machine goldfish artist is your branding and marketing. That is a bigger deal. I recently made a video, I'll have a card pop up here so you can check that out. It's how you brand yourself. It's how you put yourself out there. And it is so important. That is what's going to make someone buy your dryer goldfish versus the washing machine goldfish. And that's what you want to focus on, not the idea of, oh my gosh, somebody's going to steal my idea. This is not something that I would freak out about and not post your work. I mean, what's the point of painting and drawing if you're not going to share it with anybody? That's what you do with artwork. So I would not worry so much about it. It is not the end of the world when it does get stolen. There are measures that you can take. The law will side with you as the artist. So I hope that helps, and I hope you start posting your work for everyone to see and maybe copy a little bit. I'm kidding. I have a frequently asked questions page over on my website. If you cannot find the answer to your question, there is a section where you can submit your own question to be featured in one of these videos. I will have a card pop up here so you can check that out. Wait, don't go, wait. Did you hit the subscribe button? It's right there. You should totally subscribe because I have new art videos 5 times a week. You don't want to miss out on that, right? I'd be lonely if you did.